What is going on, Pats Nation? It's Patriots Global back here with another video, and in this one, we're going to be talking about a rumor surrounding the New England Patriots, and I guarantee you that this is something that 90% of you haven't heard. This isn't really something that is being talked about, but it's something to keep our eyes on, especially following the loss to the Seattle Seahawks on primetime this past Sunday. Now, like always, with things like this, with potential trades or signings, whatnot, always take it with a grain of salt. You know, just because there is a potential rumor and there's sources saying that this could happen, it does not mean that is 100% going to happen. It's just something that is potentially being talked about. So basically, I got a boy over on Instagram who does stuff just like this, stuff that I do, but he does it over on Instagram rather than YouTube. A lot like me, this guy does this purely for fun, and he believes in just giving back to the Pats Nation community. He believes in making sure that we get you guys the news and the updates surrounding this team, but also making sure that we give valid news. And apparently, he talked to a front office employee for the New England Patriots. They had some communication, and he told this guy that after last night's game to the Seattle Seahawks and that loss they had, the Patriots have been in contact with the Detroit Lions head coach Matt Patricia on a potential, underline that word, potential trade for wide receiver Marvin Jones Jr. Now, big shout out to Patriot_Nation_. Guys, go give him a follow over on Instagram. Really appreciate the news, buddy. And yeah, I think we can all agree that this move makes a lot of sense for the New England Patriots. And before we get into exactly why that is, I just want to say, guys, link in the description below is to NFL broadcaster, my good friend. Go ahead and check out his YouTube channel. Just click the link below. It's the first link. Head over to his YouTube channel and subscribe. He makes content on everything NFL. Like I do Patriots, he does all 32 NFL teams, the biggest news, the smallest news, everything that you need to know to be up to date with the NFL season. Guys, like I always tell you, it is super, super important that you follow all NFL teams, because although you might just be a Patriots fan, you want to follow other teams and know the updates that are going on with the other guys so that when the Patriots play them, you know what to expect. So link below to him, guys. Go ahead and check him out. But again, this deal would make a lot of sense for the New England Patriots because, let's be real, they need help at wide receiver. This is something that we've been saying for a while. They really have three main wide receivers and then a core of running backs that they like to go to. You know, mostly James White, Rex Burkhead, and essentially that's it. Of course, the three receivers that we are talking about is Julian Edelman, Damiere Byrd, and N'Keal Harry. Really, the most notable one here being Julian Edelman. You know, Damiere Byrd, N'Keal Harry, what exactly can we expect from them for the rest of the season? We don't exactly know. Now, Damiere Byrd had a pretty fair game here against the Seattle Seahawks. 6 receptions, 72 yards. N'Keal Harry, 8 receptions, also 72 yards. But what I do want to note is that the Seattle Seahawks defense has a lot of questions, okay? And the fact that some of these receivers still had some issues does fall for some concern. The New England Patriots are going to 100% be playing against defenses that are much harder than the Seattle Seahawks. You know, we're talking about the Ravens, the Bills, the 49ers, and the Patriots even got away a little bit from the Seattle Seahawks defense because even during the game, they were dealing with a lot of defensive injuries. So while the passing game was pretty nice against the Seattle Seahawks, while Julian Edelman had a great game, best of his career, 8 receptions, 179 yards, a long reception of 49 yards, and Damiere Byrd and N'Keal Harry got a little bit more involved also, let's remember that, okay, how is a guy like Damiere Byrd going to play against more top-tier defenses? Now, for me, Julian Edelman, that's not a question. He's still going to perform extremely well, but we can't just rely on Julian Edelman. Let's hope he doesn't get injured, but if that was to happen, what do we do then? What happens if Julian Edelman gets double-teamed? You need another receiver who is able to get open. They wanted that guy to be Mohamed Sanu. That didn't work out. Mohamed Sanu is out of here. He's with the San Francisco 49ers. The Patriots wanted the run game to really be the center of this offense. That didn't go well whatsoever. Sony Michel still is not looking great against the Seattle Seahawks. Between all of their running backs and Cam Newton, who was their leading rusher, they had a total of 154 rushing yards. Or, I'm sorry, they had a total of 67 yards. They gave up a total of 154 rushing yards defensively to the Seattle Seahawks. So, clearly, that's a situation where the Patriots can't even rely on this running game. While I was watching the game against the Seattle Seahawks, I noticed one pretty big thing, and that was Cam Newton kind of looking like he was scrambling around. He was having some issues finding an open receiver, and again, that was against the Seattle Seahawks. They have issues getting pressure. They are dealing with a lot of injuries defensively. Again, New England is going to face better pass rushes. They're going to face much more pressure than the Seattle Seahawks put on this offense. They're going to be facing better secondaries. Cam Newton's not going to necessarily have the time to just sit back there and let his wide receivers get open and potentially make a play like we did versus the Seahawks. He might not be able to do that versus other teams like the Bills or the 49ers, the Ravens. So getting a veteran receiver such as Marvin Jones, who could bring a new aspect to the New England Patriots offense, something that they really need to just vamp up that offense and that wide receiver core, that could be the missing piece, and I think it could go a long way. Something that I've been thinking since the season started is, my God, if we just have one good receiver, a true, just number 2 receiver behind Julian Edelman, this offense could just be so special. Cam Newton is performing well. This is the best I've seen him in years, and I think this is one of the best seasons, so far at least, that he has ever had in his career. What he's able to do as a mobile quarterback, being able to extend plays, looking really good with throw power and accuracy. I think if the Patriots can get a true number 2 receiver, then it really opens up this dynamic of the offensive playbook. You don't necessarily have to rely on the running game. Of course, I think that's something that the Patriots still need to work on, something that they still want to lean towards. But you have a receiver core that is really able to be revamped and able to perform much better because of your personnel you have against these defenses. I think there's a lot of pressure on Damiere Byrd, N'Keal Harry, and although they performed fairly well against the Seattle Seahawks, how are they going to perform against these other teams? Especially when Cam Newton has to get the ball out within a couple of seconds. Grabbing a guy that can help the offense, can help Cam Newton take some of the pressure off of Damiere Byrd and N'Keal Harry, but just give some depth at the wide receiver position and even take a little bit of that pressure off of Julian Edelman really can go a long ways. Let's give Cam Newton some more guys to give the ball and distribute the ball to out on the field, not always have to have him going back to the same guys, because again, that's just going to be super predictable. And if the New England Patriots are going to be predictable, we saw it last season, we saw it on the last play versus the Seattle Seahawks, teams know how to stop you if you're predictable. This is a move that I think makes sense, but is also a little bit questionable here for the Detroit Lions. If they think that this is going to be a season that they just don't have it, they're really not going to be a winning team, then look, why not ship him off and get some pretty nice draft capital for him? Of course, if you're the Detroit Lions, this will also free up about $6 million for you. Yes, you heard that right. The Patriots will be taking on a $6 million contract in exchange for Marvin Jones, but again, with the cap the Patriots have, I think it is worth it. But I think the Patriots also have to really understand, okay, if Marvin Jones comes in, is he a guy you firmly believe is going to make that impact? Because he is only under contract for one season. So the Patriots are only going to get him for the rest of the 2020 season, and then he hits free agency. I know that right now Marvin Jones is a big piece here for the Detroit Lions because Galladay is still dealing with some injuries. When he comes back, I'm not 100% sure. They do have Danny Amendola, but like I said, if they think that this is just not a season where they're going to win, they're going to get far, just get that draft capital. Get that draft capital to be able to build your team for the 2021 season. It just makes sense. Now, as for the draft capital New England would potentially have to give up, I wouldn't say anything too drastic. Now, he's not worth a first-round pick. I'm going to tell you that right now. Statistically, he puts up good numbers, but he's not like he's a 1,000-yard receiver every single year. We're taking on $6 million, and he's only under contract for 1 year. I'm surprised the Patriots gave up a second-round pick for Mohamed Sanu. I don't see that being the situation here. The definite, absolute earliest, I would say, is a second-round pick, but I kind of feel like Bill Belichick, the New England Patriots, they learned from that mistake, and I think a big reason they got Mohamed Sanu for that second-round pick was because he was signed under contract for 2 years, as Marvin Jones is 1, so I'd probably say about a third-round pick is a reasonable situation that could be the asking price for Marvin Jones. A 6'2" receiver that would bring some height to the New England Patriots, a guy that they can also play on the outside, they can play on the inside. My guess would be more so that they wanted to play him on the outside, but getting some more height here for the New England Patriots. They are pretty small at the wide receiver position with Damiere Byrd and Julian Edelman. N'Keal Harry, of course, does bring that height, but other than him, who do the New England Patriots really have that has that height? So I think that's another aspect that the Patriots could really bring in that would be beneficial because Cam Newton does love his tall receivers. Now, so far this season, he has put up not terrible numbers. His first game against the Bears, he had 4 receptions for 55 yards, averaging 13.8 yards a reception with a long reception of 21 yards. Against the Packers, he had another 4 receptions for 23 yards, averaging 5.8 yards per reception, long catch of 8 with 1 touchdown. Which so far throughout the 2 games we've played so far for the 2020 season, he has 8 receptions for 78 yards, averaging 9.8 yards per reception with a long catch of 21 yards and 1 touchdown. Now again, he's not someone you should expect to necessarily go out there and put up 1,000 yards. Now the New England Patriots are thin at the position, so if he was traded, depending on when, maybe that happens, but he's only had 1 season where he eclipsed 1,000 yards. That was in 2017 with the Detroit Lions, where he had 1,101 yards and 9 touchdowns. But other than that, always putting up pretty dang respectable numbers: 712 yards, 930 yards, 816 yards, 508 yards, 779 yards just last season. And also seems to be a guy that is a pretty good red zone target. 2019 had 9 touchdowns. 2017, 9 touchdowns. 2018, 5 touchdowns. And in 2013, he had 10. So a potential under-the-radar guy the New England Patriots could be looking to add. I would really, really like the addition of a true number 2 receiver, a guy that can make an actual impact, not just some guy off the streets that, we're kind of going, what is his honest impact going to be here? I think it could go a really long way for the Patriots. As we all know, the trade deadline is just right around the bend. The New England Patriots are always active in that situation with talks, whether they actually make a trade or not. So this is all going to be stuff to keep, around the league, especially with these stories heading up, just with teams in general looking to make possible trades before the trade deadline. So subscribe to the channel for all of your New England Patriots news. I will keep you guys up to date like always. Make sure you guys leave a big like on this video, and again, subscribe to the channel for all of your New England Patriots news. But like always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you in my next video.